This is Coda Radio, episode 157 for June 8th, 2015. Hi everyone, and welcome to Coda Radio, Jupiter Broadcasting's weekly talk show taking a pragmatic look at the art and business of software development and related technologies. This episode is brought to you by our two fine sponsors, DigitalOcean and Linux Academy. I'll tell you more about those great sponsors as this here show goes on. My name is Chris, and joining us every single week is our most definitely excellent host, who is decidedly established on the East Coast. Why, yes, it is Mr. Michael Dominic. Hey there, Michael.
Buenos dias, El Capitan.
Hello, El Capitan. Hello, sir, El Captain. Hello, the Captain. So,
Yes.
did you do your stretches between the wrap up of the keynote and about right now, because the keynote literally just wrapped up? Did you do any stretches? Because we have been.
We've been rocking it pretty hard.
Yeah.
I mean, not as hard as EQ, because
Nobody can. I don't. First of all, I don't even have a salmon colored shirt. So,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, it is WWDC 2015 day today, and boy, oh boy, did WWDC just happen. It was a long keynote, and it started at 10 a.m., and it just wrapped up about 12:20 p.m. We saw a lot of stuff in iOS 9, not very much in OS 10, and we saw the announcement of Apple Music. No hardware announced, nothing about Apple TV announced, but there is one really, really big announcement that I'm excited to talk about today, and I kind of want to pick your brain about it. I know you already know what it is, and it's the one probably our audience cares the most about. But before we get to that, Mr. Buccaneer Tech, how is Buccaneer Tech doing?
we are great. Let me tell you what we've been doing. We have been looking for someone named El Capitan. No, we're doing good. We're trying to ship open source solutions for companies doing web applications and mobile applications. And
Now-
we're currently... Go ahead.
Well, I mean, you say that, and that sounds very ambitious, but what I noticed is somebody recently got a Moto 360. Is that related to anything Buccaneer Tech is doing?
Well, Chris, according to the Fifth Amendment of the United States Constitution, not going to answer that.
Well, you are tweeting the fact that you got a watch. I'm just wondering if I mean, that's they kind of put it out there. Actually, the reason I bring it up, Mr. Dominic, is I'm curious to see what you have in mind here. So I guess I'll just have to follow you, Buccaneer Tech, on Twitter to find out more, because apparently that's wrong.
We are doing a few things in wearables. In fact, we're currently running a promotion, Chris, if I can plug.
Oh, I'd love to hear it.
Okay, so if you go to our website, buccaneertech.com.
Heard of it before.
And you fill out that cute little contact form. In your email, you can put anything you want, especially if it's insulting towards Chris.
Oh, sure.
But if you use the promo code anywhere in the subject of your email or anywhere in the body there of that message box, El Capitan, you'll get a free consultation. Now, this deal's good from now until the end of June.
El Capitan, I like it. El Capitan, you put that in there, insult me a little bit, and you get a free consultation from Buccaneer Tech.
That's right.
So
and we're specifically looking for folks who want to do something in the Android wearable space, but we do offer iOS, AngularJS, Ruby on Rails, and unfortunately PHP.
I'm super excited about wearables, which is a really weird thing for me to say. Oh, let me. But even taste bad when I even say it. Hold on a second.
You okay? You okay?
I just said I like.
Puke it up. Just puke it up.
I can't even believe what I
better.
just said. Oh, God. But the truth be told, it's changing my life a little bit. Oh my gosh. Wow, what am I saying? Oh, I'm a little dizzy now. Hold on, I gotta turn the air conditioning on. It's getting too hot in here. I think I'm losing it. So anyways, the Android Watch stuff has been pretty good. It's been solid for me, and I'm pleased with the usefulness and functionality of it so far as a consumer device. I got the LG Watch R, and I use it. I use the Fit stuff, and it motivates me to get a little more exercise in, which is good. And I use it for sleep tracking, and it's pretty useful for messaging with my wife over Telegram too. I'll tell you what, though, it is sometimes the most unreliable garbage I've ever used. I've never used technology more finicky and really more reliable. About I don't know 11 out of 10 times I try to use the speech function to like set a reminder. It never ever stinking works ever. Never once actually. It's never once actually worked when I went to just kind of natively use it, and I was kind of showing off. Like I'd be in the car and I'd be with other people and be like, okay, Googs, set a reminder for it, and then it just sits there like a geek and never sets it. And then
which watch is this again?
The LG Watch R. But what it is it's so finicky. Like that speech recognition, I think, just takes too much bandwidth. And so if you have like a finicky Bluetooth connection, or if your phone has a finicky connection back to Google services, like if your phone isn't connected to Google at the time, it just doesn't work. And so like if you're switching between Edge and 3G and 4G or something like that, that just happens sometimes. So that's okay. That's the number one kind of ongoing problem. But you know what? I just don't use it for that. That's fine. I don't need to talk to my wrist. It'd be nice if it worked as advertised. It's obvious. That's how they want you to interact with it. In Android 5.1 for the watch, they've kind of reduced it a little bit and got you easier to launch applications just using icons. It's got a way better app launcher than Apple Watch. And so it's usable. Always on is nice. There's another problem, though. And this has now happened to me twice. And so I went off and I did some research to see if it happens to other Android Wear users or if it's just me. And based on the reading I've done on the Android Wear subreddit and on XDA forum, it apparently happens quite a bit to people where the watch and the phone just totally stop talking. And actually,
how could I reproduce this?
Okay, well, do you have a Android Wear device?
I have a Moto 360 on my wrist.
Do you have an Android phone?
And a Nexus 5 right here. So how do I do this?
You just hang out for a while. Just give it a while, and at some point they're going to completely lose each other. And the phone, they'll still be connected over Bluetooth, but you'll open up Android Wear, and it'll be like, no, bro, you don't have a phone, you don't have a watch. And then okay. So this is just the most recent one, and this is why it's actually a problem. Okay, so I'm in bed sleeping Sunday morning before the Linux Action Show. Okay, all right, I'm in bed and I'm sleeping, which is a nice treat when that happens to begin with. And it's getting bright out earlier, so it's really hard to sleep in kind of into the morning.
Right, you're sunbathing, dude. We get that.
Yep, I'm laying in bed naked, and I wake up kind of pleasantly, and I look down at my watch. I tap the screen to wake it up, and it says it's 9:58 a.m. Well, Linux Action Show starts at 10 a.m. It says it's 9:58 a.m. And I crap the bed, and I whip out, I jump out of bed, and I whip out my phone. To go telegram Noah to say, somehow, for the first time in 9 years, I blew it and I overslept. I can't believe this actually happened to me. I'm going to be on my way. And as I go and I have my finger on the thumbprint reader and I'm waiting for it to unlock the screen, I realize that it says it's 4:55 a.m. I say, what? What's the sun doing up at 4:55 a.m., first of all? That's unbelievably ridiculous. And then, second of all, what? And it's too bright out. I'm like, no way is it almost not even like 5 a.m. yet. No way. So I'm looking out there, and I'm like, how is it so bright? I'm looking at my watch. My watch says it's 9:58 a.m. And then I look a little closer at my watch, and I realize this is January 1st, 1970.
Oh, it's
my Android Wear watch went to January 1st, 1970. And for the rest of the day, I could never get my Android Wear watch connected to my Android phone for the rest of the day. Now, normally what you have to do, and you're going to run into this, so I'll just tell you, there's two different approaches depending on how far gone the connection is. Sometimes you're lucky if you reboot the phone first and then reboot the watch while the phone's rebooting. So that way the phone finishes booting first and the Bluetooth stack initializes before the Wear device finishes booting. Sometimes they'll just start talking again. You can't just reboot one or the other either. I've tried that. It won't last. Then, if you got to go all in like I did this last time, you got to completely factory reset the Android Wear device, drop it from your Bluetooth pairing, repair it under Bluetooth, go back under Android Wear, resync down all your apps, re-go through the tutorial on how to use Android Wear, and use it again for a while. And this is at least the third time, I want to say even the fourth time possibly, that this has happened. At least 2 times I've had to do the factory reset thing. And the thing is, it's embarrassing.
This is just on the LG, right? This is just...
No, I thought so. In fact, when I first started researching, I specifically was researching for the LG Watch R. But then, like on all the threads, I was seeing the Moto 360 brought up quite a bit as well. So I don't think it's limited just to the Moto 360. And by the way, I'm using the latest version of Android Wear, 5.1 or whatever it is.
I mean, I've been running this for about a week now, and it's fine.
Yeah, it took a few weeks for it to crop up. And so the unreliability of the voice search is embarrassing, especially when my wife is sitting there with her Apple Watch, and Siri doesn't seem to ever miss a beat. And then the other thing that's embarrassing...
I'm sorry. Did you just say that Siri doesn't miss a beat?
Yeah, for her. She doesn't use it much. She just sets it she'll just, she just use it for basic stuff, and it's fine. But like set a reminder, it works every time. It's particularly good on the Apple Watch. It's particularly good. Like, I don't know if it buffers it, and then, like, if it fails to connect it first, and then it retransmits. But the Google Watch, like, if it doesn't have a solid connection when you do it, it just never even bothers. But, like, the Apple Watch,
hang on. Okay, Google. Remind me to send Chris a steaming bag of dog shit.
No, it works every time you try it. It's when you're actually out and about, you're not on a Wi-Fi network. Of course. It'll work right now if I try it. It'll work. It will work. Most of the time when you're doing the demo thing. Most of the time when you're doing the demo thing, you're in a quiet office setting. You go outside, you're in a car, you're driving around, you're on wireless networking, there's some road noise, it fails all the time. It's no good.
Is it possible that the prehistoric woodland area you live in is just losing the network connection?
Yeah. But, again, it turns out I live in the same area as my wife. And she doesn't have this. She doesn't have these. Like, it'll fail, and she'll be smirking, and she'll just pull her watch out and bust it out. Like, she'll just bust it out.
So it sounds like you're taking a real windy path here, and we should get onto the WWDC topic. But you're taking a real windy path here to tell everybody that you're going back to iOS. Is that what you're trying to say?
No, I got it working again. I'm hanging out. I still think Android Wear is right now a better platform. It's got better apps. It's got more functionality. You seem a little excited
during the keynote there, Chris. I'm just just throwing it out there.
I think maybe when the next Apple Watch comes out, or maybe if these native apps don't suck, they might be working with something there.
With the open source Swift 2.0.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that. That's actually I think that's our biggest. That's our biggest stuff. Do you want to get into that, or do you want to get into the other stuff and save Swift for a little bit? Because that seems like a huge deal.
Then let's do the other stuff first.
All right, let's start. Before we get into the other stuff, let's reset. Let's reset our brains. Let's take a moment, and I'll talk about Linux Academy, first sponsor of the Coder Radio program. Go to linuxacademy.com/coders to get the Coder Radio discount. Linux Academy is a great resource if you want to take your Linux skills or skills around the Linux technology stack, and that's a range of things. That includes OpenStack, AWS, virtualization, Ruby on Rails, PHP, Android development, the entire area. What I love about Linux Academy is they're going to allow you to sort of set up an environment that works best for you. 7+ distributions to choose from. Those distributions that you choose from for the courseware also match the virtual machines they'll spin up for you during the courseware, all included as part of your Linux Academy subscription. The thing that's truly genuine and great about Linux Academy is they are enthusiasts that make this stuff, and that closes the gap. It's our philosophy here with Jupiter Broadcasting. There's a lot of places you could go to hear about news, to hear about some of the things we talk about. Some of them might have higher production values, like, hell, even NPR will cover some of the things we talk about on some of their technology shows. They're undoubtedly at times going to have better audio quality than we will. They have a much higher budget. But they don't have the same insights that we do because they don't live and breathe it. They just report it. That's the same for education as well. Linux Academy is created by people that truly live and breathe and are passionate about this. And that difference means that they're following it a little bit closer. They know the stuff that truly matters. They know how you work with it in real-world scenarios. And that's why so many of their courses and so many of their labs use scenario-based training. You work in their advanced lab environments and complete scenarios from beginning to end. That's not like the other guys. This stuff gives you hands-on experience so that when you go out into the real world and you have to use this stuff, it's not your first time. And then, once you become more advanced at this kind of stuff, go back and check out some of their nuggets, or start there. These are individualized courses that really zero in on a specific thing that you should probably be better at. And I say that because I've been the Linux administrator for way, way, way longer than I want to admit. And there's still things I find I could learn to do better. And that was a hard lesson I learned many years ago when I went and just took the Linux Plus course. And I discovered, wow. Sometimes it's good to just revisit the basics, and you can step through that with step-by-step course information. It's going to tell you how long each section is going to take. If you don't have a lot of time in 1 week, they'll let you automatically set, like you go in there and say, okay, I've got 1 hour on Monday, 3 hours on Tuesday. No time on Wednesday. I got to watch Unfiltered. I can't watch anything. I can't do anything. But Thursday, boy, I got to wait for TechSnap. So until TechSnap comes out late in the evening, I'll get 3 hours. And like, you go in there with these sliders and set how much availability you have. They'll custom create courseware for you. They're adding new courseware all the time. They're doubling down on the Red Hat stuff right now. They got some of the best and the thing is these guys live and breathe the stuff that they're putting up there. And that is so great. I would much rather learn from a true enthusiast than somebody that's reading a script. So go over to linuxacademy.com/coders to get our discount and try them out. Check them out. New updates coming all the time. It's a great service, and you can get the Coder Radio discount and keep us on the air as well. linuxacademy.com/coders. And a big thanks to Linux Academy for sponsoring the Coder Radio program. Okay, really quick, before we get into Swift, I wanted to talk about OS 10 El Capitan, or Captain OS 10. Let's talk about Captain OS 10 for a second. And I thought one of the things they're doing interesting here is, and this is, their big competitor in this market still is Windows 10. And Windows 10 is a huge release from Microsoft. So Apple had two routes to go, right? They could go with another huge push post Yosemite to kind of compete head on with Windows 10, but that's pretty hard. That's pretty hard buzz to counter at this point. And Yosemite has gotten a lot of heat for being a pretty bad release. So they come out with El Capitan because they looked within. And they focused on performance and user experience.
Yeah, I'm sorry. All I see is Federici standing like Captain Morgan with his leg on a rum barrel.
He does look like Captain Morgan.
What should we call this version of the release?
Well,
and
okay.
Like, aha.
Let's be fair, though. Let's be fair in the sense that the Mac is getting a little boring. It is a workhorse workstation for a lot of people.
Right.
You don't need to keep reinventing the wheel. And you don't need to go Windows 8.
Right.
So I kind of respect where they went. And I think some of the new window management stuff, like the snapping and things like that, and the virtual desktop creation, are pretty decent improvements.
Yeah, I think this has an opportunity to be not nearly as good as the Snow Leopard release, but something more akin to that, right? To like a bug fix.
I suspect
the only thing... Go ahead.
Well, I just to bounce off your point, I suspect like in production here, we've been avoiding Yosemite. We have Mavericks on the couple of Macs that we still have in production, and we'll just skip Yosemite altogether and probably go straight to El Capitan if it turns out to be a good release.
The only thing I'm disappointed I didn't really see, because I don't want new features on Mac, right? And I doubt anybody really does. I really wanted them to roll back some of that Fisher-Price crap.
Some of the new Johnny Ive-inspired UI design.
Yeah, and I feel that way in iOS too. I think when we get to iOS 9, we'll talk about that some. But I was really hoping to go back to Chrome kind of metal. Look like the workhorse you are, right? Don't try to be soft and accommodating. But yeah, not much to say.
I kind of like it. I like it, but I would like to see them expand the dark mode because it reminds me a lot of GNOME 3. And so I kind of like it because if I got to use a Mac, I'd prefer it looks more like my preferred desktop environment. I know. Before we get into iOS, what about Metal on the Mac? Do you think that's a big deal?
Maybe, right? I still don't know how many people are actually gaming on Macs. I doubt it's many.
Well, it looks like a bunch of more iPad games will be coming to the Mac soon.
Yeah,
okay.
I could see that. I could see like high-end iPad games coming to Mac as well. But yeah,
when I was watching it with the chat room, and by the way, full live coverage of the event was done on the JB Live TV stream, and I recorded it for our patrons over at patreon.com/today. We are trying to raise funds. We kind of overextended ourselves during Linux Fest Northwest, so we've had to scale back on a few other initiatives. And one of the things we want to do is get somebody in-house. I'll have more details about that soon. And we want to make some improvements to the studio again. You can probably hear in the background. Do you hear it? Hold on a second. You hear that buzz in the background?
That's the sound of compute power.
Yeah, I would like to clean that up and do things like that. But it is we have so much equipment now to do what we do that the heating is getting ridiculous even this time of year. If I turn off that air conditioner, it gets up to 90 degrees in the studio, and that's just too hot to even focus. There's a lot of little things we want to change, and I would love to have been able to go to Self. So one of the things I'm doing to kind of encourage people to support us over at patreon.com/today is I'm going to take that WWDC live stream that we did, the Mystery Science Theater commentary, and I'm going to post it up there for our patrons to watch, to get the whole thing with with a little bit of commentary sprinkled in here and there. And like sometimes somebody come up on stage and people didn't know the history of the person, so I'd sort of cut in during the applause to sort of fill in some details about them. So it's like pop-up video, but with Chris's voice. For those of you VH1 fans. So anyways, patreon.com/today if you want to sign up and get access to that, plus any of the other behind-the-scenes stuff. Okay. We were just talking about the watch and Android Wear. One of the things they announced was WatchOS is going to have native apps. Well, first of all, we have a name. It's called WatchOS, and they're going to have WatchOS 2 with native apps and third-party complications. That's, I think, actually pretty nice.
I think that's probably the most significant thing out of this keynote, other than possibly Swift being open source, right? The problem Apple Watch has had is that third-party apps kind of blow on it.
Yeah.
Because they have to do all the logic, render the UI on the phone, and then just kind of communicate that to the watch, which is not very performant at all, as you might imagine. So this could be really, really cool.
Being able to put complications from third parties on there is pretty nice, and not actually something I expected them to do too soon. So, you could see like a podcast app could have a complication on there.
Yeah.
You could see a lot of things. And I also kind of I dig the idea of them allowing third-party health apps to integrate in, like Fitbit can now take advantage of that, or maybe Microsoft Band or other things could work with that. So that's sort of nice of Apple as well, in more than I expect, kind of a nice way. So kind of WatchOS 2 kind of brings it a little more on par, I think, with Android Wear.
Yeah, this is going to be, I think, the opening of the wearables app market, really. I mean, yes, there are watch apps, there are wear apps. But
FaceTime audio call from the watch is honestly kind of a cool feature.
Is it though?
No, it is.
Really?
I think it's kind of neat.
No, it's not really.
I don't know. It kind of is. Yeah, it is, because it can be done over Wi-Fi.
How did you feel about Apple Pay?
I'm still not super impressed with Apple Pay, but it's just because I don't really have any use for it.
I don't. Yeah.
I guess I find it interesting from a developer's, possibly app integration standpoint at this point, but I don't actually use it.
One thing I'm mildly concerned with, they announced this. They announced WatchKit, the native version.
Mm-hmm.
They did not mention battery life.
No, they didn't, did they?
So I'm wondering how, as a developer, how conscious of battery life you're going to have to be.
Yeah. There is going to have to be.
I suspect it's going to be pretty. You're going to have to be pretty conservative.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's probably going to be a lot of limitations there on what it can do and how long it can run and things like that. Transitioning from the watch to iOS 9 itself. You touched on Apple Pay. I think Siri is looking a lot better. A
lot stronger, a lot more feature parity to Google now. But again, I feel like this is an area where Apple's kind of following, right?
Well, I agree in one sense. So there's a few features that the chat room responded kind of positively to. Like, you plug in the headphones, and now on your lock screen, Siri will automatically recommend some music to you, but it doesn't autoplay. It just presents it on the home screen. That's actually pretty nice, and I would like to maybe have it, recommend a podcast or something like that. The other thing that I thought was, or it can also offer an audiobook or a podcast that says, instead of music, it says it already does that. Well, that's actually great. If the address, if somebody's number isn't in your address book, it'll read through your email and suggest them. If somebody sends you an invite, it'll read through your email and automatically add it to your calendar for you. But the thing, so that's where you're saying that these Google, or if traffic is bad, it'll give you an alert that you need to leave now for traffic. That is all, you're right, very Google Now-ish. But the thing that Apple, and you pointed this out during our live coverage, the thing that Apple beat the drum on is they're doing this anonymously when they do have to talk to the web. Yeah. They're doing it locally on the device. They're not using, this big collection of cloud information. They're not they're not doing some sort of massive privacy invasion to get all this information. They're doing analytics on the device. They're doing remote lookups for traffic information and they're not associating it with your Apple ID. They're not associating it with your device ID. So they're giving you some of the benefits of Google Now without the privacy invasion. And it's just part of a platform feature.
It's almost an extension of their kind of like taste or design focus, and that they're saying, we're a higher end experience, right? We're the top tier experience. I'm not sure though how, I didn't see. I guess I don't agree with you. I wasn't very impressed by Siri at all, and I felt like the privacy thing was almost a crutch to say, we're more limited because we respect your privacy, which could be, which is probably true, right?
Yes, absolutely, it's true. Here's why I disagree, though. It's a compromise that I think is fair. I think that's a good compromise. People are going to become more privacy aware because Apple is going to beat this drum a lot. And my prediction is over 2016, the rest of the tech industry that Google competes with, Amazon, Microsoft, and all of
well, Microsoft started it right last year. I mean, Microsoft.
Microsoft did a crap job. Microsoft did a tongue-in-cheek, the Scroogled store. Apple is doing
How about
it.
The mailman reading.
Right, but here's the difference, and I'm not saying Apple's isn't for marketing motivations. Don't mistake how I'm saying they're doing it for what their intention is. But the way Apple is doing it, it comes from this. This is a lifestyle. This is what we believe in. Your privacy is important, and you can accomplish a lot of these neat tricks without having to be so invasive. And Tim Cook, last week, was at a privacy conference where he blasted Google and Silicon Valley for being so greedy over user information. Now, you take that with these features, and now you have a marketing message from Apple, and the rest of the industry loves to copy Apple's marketing.
Okay, but there's a little bit of a flaw in this, right? The minute you install Facebook or on your Apple device, it's
Yep.
I mean, it's great marketing.
But back to your point, though. But if the platform, and in this case, the platform is iOS, if it can give me, hey, bro, you got to get out and get going now because traffic's bad, and if it can give me automatic calendar entries, and if I can... Oh, man, the other huge one for me was when a message comes in, you can say, remind me about this later. That is my number one mother effing workflow. Literally, during the live stream of the WWDC keynote, 3 different message threads came in during that keynote asking me to do things for people that need to be done in order for production to continue on, that I have to remember after 4 or 5 hours of doing live content. I need to remember to go back and reread those 3 different Telegram threads and do those action items. And that is a light day for me. So that workflow right there would change my life. If I could have a message and say, remind me to take this, and then bring me right back to that point in the message thread so I don't have to scroll up 30 frickin' pages because I get so many damn messages in a day, it would change my life. So those kinds of things, without having to be tied to some massive information collection cloud, even if they are not as good as Google now and never can be as good as Google stuff, it's a trade-off to me that's worth it.
Okay, but as a developer, right, looking at this from an opportunity perspective, yes, the app the Siri to app deep linking is kind of cool, but it's very telling that they called it deep linking, right? Because in the Cocoa development space, that has a very specific meaning, which is basically literally a link, right? Like a URL scheme to your view with some data that you then render. I feel like Google I/O again was another kind of bug fix, under the hood kind of thing conference, just like I would say iOS or WWDC was too. But I left watching I/O feeling excited about a few things.
Before you go further, hold on.
Go ahead.
I don't mean to drag it out, but because I think you're about to make a great point, I don't want to go off the deep linking thing. That deep linking and that contextual search where you go into that spotlight thing or whatever they're calling it on iOS and you type in like food reviews and you're getting yummy stuff and then you click on the yummy review and it deep links you into the app, and they're making it more movie times and all of that stuff that you just kind of need to look, stuff that Canonical's talked about, Scopes can do. Without a doubt, that is a useful feature for a class of users, no doubt. But what it's really about, in my opinion, is Apple taking a big $160 billion finger and pointing it at Google and saying, you know what we're going to do now? We're going to take our millions and millions and millions and millions of iOS users, and we're going to give them a screen built in that bypasses Google and bypasses the web. So now when they search, that search isn't powered by Google. And when they search, they don't use Google. And when they click those links, they don't ever open the web. They don't ever give Google any ad money. They go right into the app. That's a screw you to Google is what that is.
A lot of this conference was kind of flipping Google the finger, right? Like, I don't know. I was expecting the VP of Spite to come on this stage and just be like, "Oh,
the ghost of Steve Jobs."
Yeah, just be like, "And I'm back for revenge."
So, in your opinion, okay. So, before do you want to talk about Swift before you compare I/O to WWDC? Because I what did you think though? Before we get to that, what did you think about the multitasking on the iPad with the split screen and stuff? I thought it was a pretty good implementation where the pull over menus. I had that
on my Surface a year ago.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. This stuff.
It's funny how a lot of these ideas Microsoft tried to do, and it whether it wasn't the right time.
And so did Canonical. So did Canonical. But in my opinion, like I agree with also their with the window snapping on El Capitan and with the multi-window stuff on iOS 9 here. It seems like the smoothest implementation of all of it because one thing Apple has done really well is these interfaces are all beautifully OpenGL accelerated. So things are sliding in smooth, really smooth, and when you transition to the main screen and back, like it looks really good. And the reason why that's important is the way those transition work allow your mind to kind of conceptualize on what layer those windows are at so you know where they are even when they're not on the screen. The way they kind of come in and come out. I was watching during the keynote. It's very easy for the mind. And the reason why I think about this is I think about how I have a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old using iPads, and how are they going to interact with this kind of stuff? And that's I see the way they get the multi-layered UI of iOS 7 and iOS 8. They get it. They get like mission control sliding up and how it's on top of other stuff. They get all of that. And so this is going to work really well for them. And I could already...
No, it's a powerful feature. And it's funny because this is almost exactly Apple's MMO, right? MO, not MMO. It's not Warcraft. They take a feature that had been done, shall we say, poorly or sloppily before. They polish the crap out of it and they release it, and oh my god, it's revolutionary. It's great. And I'm not downplaying that. I'm for sure going to use this feature every day. I can tell you right now.
I think the difference is, and because I have it right now on my S6. My S6 Edge has a multitasking, multi-split screen thing built in. And the way I found out about that is because every time I've used it, it has been by total accident when I'm extremely stressed out and I'm driving at the same time. And what happens, it's usually something like this. I get a message that comes in that's really important, and I'm trying to drive, but I need to answer this. And so I go to slide down the notification window drawer thingy to get an idea of what happened, and instead, I just missed the top of the screen a little teensy bitsy bit, and instead I grab the app, and then all of a sudden I've popped the app into windowed mode, and I've shoved it down into the corner and bottom of my screen, and now I can't read that app, and now I'm sitting here trying to drag it back up while I'm bouncing around in the vehicle, trying to get it back up on the full screen so that way I can read my message, and somehow when I do that I launch another application, and now I've got this weird multi-window thing going on, and I just want to read my message. And I've never actually been able to intentionally activate it, because I don't ever really need that on a screen. Like, I could totally get it on a tablet, but on a phone screen, it seems ridiculous, and so the only time I've ever used it is by accident.
Yeah. I mean, this is a tablet feature, and it's funny, right, because there is no... the concept of snapping windows left to right or quarter or eighths or whatever dimensions they're using isn't really revolutionary at all, right? But and granted, I think we need to pump the brakes a little, Chris, because I think you've been seduced by the presentation a little. I want to see how it is when I'm running Xcode, when I'm running Atom, when I'm actually working with a terminal open, how smooth that transition is, right?
Well, yeah, I'm not saying it's good. I guess, you have to divorce. I think they have great feature ideas, and they nail the implementation on a few things. There's nothing that says once you actually get it in your hands, it's going to work very well.
Well, I would disagree with that, though, right? I think you're flip-flopping between two extremes. Generally, with Apple, it does work pretty well, right? It works consistently. Now, in some cases, it works consistently poorly.
Okay, I'll give you that.
With maybe the recent exception of iOS 8.3 was buggy as crap, right? Or 8.2, whichever version it was that had all those problems that people were upset about. I don't know. I don't know why you would ever want split screen on a phone, and maybe I misunderstood the presentation. I don't think we're getting it. I think it's only on iPad.
I think so, yeah.
Right, because Samsung's crazy if they think you need split screen on your phone.
Actually, and sometimes what I get excited about is I know some of these great features are going to get ripped off by everybody else, or the ones where they already have them, they'll modify their implementations
to make it work better.
Yeah.
So what did you feel, and I'll do my comparison in a minute, because what would be your breakout feature, right? So because you're effectively a Mac user because of the production workflow you have.
Actually, I don't actually use the Mac.
Did you like that little shot across the bow?
I don't actually use any Macs anymore. Rikai does except for the Wirecast machine, but I'm standing across the room from it.
All right, so you're an Android user right now, right?
Yeah.
Was there anything in 9 that would kind of have you looking over the, over the other side again?
To me, honestly, the what they called it, proactive Siri features were actually a pretty big deal for me. That actually is a big deal for me because it. Google, I am constantly. It's on the. It gnaws at me a little bit. So that is a kind of a big deal for me. I liked the redesigned search with your recent contacts in there. I thought that was kind of nice. Otherwise, the things that would have to really get me would have to be like HomeKit would have to be amazing, and phone and watch integration would have to be amazing. So yeah, nothing blows me away about iOS 9 in particular.
So here's my issue, and we're going to go back to my comparison. I left the I/O conference. I didn't physically go. I watched it on my screen here. Excited about a few, not many, right? A few things that could be opportunities for me in the coming year, and for other developers, clients, et cetera, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm leaving, and this is just a raw reaction, right? So I might meditate on this, spank my inner Chris Fisher, and really come to a different way of thought. But yes, OS 2 for the watch looks interesting, right? But naming anything OS 2 brings back horrible IBM memories.
It's called, Watch OS 2, yes.
Watch OS 2.
So he got...
Swift 2 seems really interesting, but I want to see how that goes first. What I will say is I think I'm ready to drink the Kool-Aid on Swift. Now that it's going to be open source, now that it's going to be a little more of a guarantee that we're not going to go into crazy land. It is starting to stabilize, right? I think I'm ready to go there. But there's no like API. Well, there is one exception. But we won't know about it till I see the NDA videos. The Xcode, what do they call it? Automated UI testing.
Yeah.
If that is good, I will be so happy. That will be my killer feature of the whole thing.
Yeah. I thought a couple of things that were about iOS 9 that will be interesting. The app thinning, where they thin down the app to just support the device that it's targeting in the App Store. That's kind of should make it installing over the web or over the internet, over wireless a little easier.
Right, if it's a universal app that supports iPad too, yeah.
If it's a universal app, what? No, it's like you submit your app, and then when you at the time of install,
it strips out the assets, right? We're basically talking images and videos here.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
That's going to be most beneficial if your app is a universal app.
Yeah.
Meaning if it's iPhone and iPad, because those iPad assets are huge and you don't need to download them for no reason.
Yeah, that'll be nice for.
Is that really game changing? I mean, you should kind of be not loading your crap up.
The battery stuff could be game changing. I actually think in some ways Android M's like what do they call that? Snooze or whatever they called it. They're kind of sort of sits there and figures out your activity. Overall, I think it was nice improvements to the iOS stuff. But iOS is already in pretty good shape, except for like opening it up more to developers, which is what they did more. That recents pane, the Siri API, it's not bad.
I would caution you there, right? Because we're not going to know this until it's out. Or we're not going to be able to talk about it until later.
Yeah, now the obnoxious NDAs begin. I want to stop dancing around Swift. I want to talk about that here in a sec. But
let's talk about it.
Okay, so there's nothing else in the from like the Mac side, or are you bummed no Apple TV stuff? Do you care?
Yeah, that is what I wanted actually. That
really?
Was fun, but,
for developers?
You saw the very obvious controlled leak, right? In the New York Times.
Remind me.
They leaked like 2 days ago that there wasn't going to be an Apple TV.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just can't. Well, I just can't get it figured out, I guess.
It's got to be the content deals, right? I don't want to go into this because every other show talked about it, but it's, I would really like to see the box come out, even if you can't get Comcast or whoever, NBC, whatever, to play ball with you. Just because, I have a lot of content in iTunes. I have the 1080 Apple TV. It is kind of disgraceful compared to some of the competitors out there.
The Roku isn't as polished. But, geez, you got so much more apps, so much more cool things you can do with the Roku. You can run Plex natively.
There's that huge issue with you screwing up your network, right?
Yeah, their DNS thing.
Yeah, so it'd be great if they could fix that.
Oh man, yeah, that's for those of you that don't know, there's some.
If you have
Discovery
D,
is that what it is?
It's a problem. Yeah,
it's Discovery D or something like that.
Discovery
D. If you have an Apple TV on your network and you're not using it, you might as well just turn it off because it's probably causing you some grief.
If you wonder why you can't connect to Wi-Fi, it's that little bastard in the corner.
It was good to see some stuff about the watch, but yeah, okay, all right. Well, we should probably talk about Swift. I'm kind of fascinated by what they're doing with Swift. So why don't we take a moment before we get to that, and let's talk about DigitalOcean. Now, we have a promo code, CoderDigital, one word. CoderDigital over at DigitalOcean. They'll get you a $10 promo to try it out. You've probably heard us talk about it before, but if you're new to the show, new to DigitalOcean, it's something really unique, something really neat. DigitalOcean is a simple cloud hosting provider dedicated to offering the most intuitive and easy way for you to get going with your own cloud server. And that's really killer. You get up there, you get an SSD-powered cloud server, so your I/O is super, super high. I mean, it's like, when I used to build servers, to get the kind of performance you're getting from a droplet, I would have to have a large array of at least 10,000 RPM drives, probably in some sort of fast, crazy array. And either I could maybe try iSCSI, but a lot of the times the performance, if I wanted the kind of performance I'm getting from these SSDs on a reliable basis, I might do fiber channel, especially if I'm coloing. It's just totally changed now with DigitalOcean. And now, in under 55 seconds, and for $5 a month, you can get 512 megabytes of RAM, a 20 gigabyte SSD, 1 CPU, and a terabyte of transfer. I had a colo with array-to-array, and the server, that was probably $1,500 just for the hardware, because you also have to pay for the power, and then the bandwidth was another $1,000. Now, I could add more servers in there and didn't add an incredible amount of cost, but at DigitalOcean I can do it for $5 a month. That's amazing. $5 a month. And the other thing is, that's just when I did it my old way. Old school, Chris, I guess. I could just do it in one data center. But DigitalOcean has data center locations in New York, San Francisco, Singapore, Amsterdam, London, a really nice brand new one in Germany. 40 gigabit E-connections to each hypervisor, their fastest SSDs yet, and it's located at such a great center point over there for all of Germany's neighbors. It's really a great service, and now over at Jupiter Broadcasting, we just treat it as our Linux data center. They have free BSD too, but we're a Linux shop. And one of the things I really, truly love about it is when we need some infrastructure, we just go over to DigitalOcean. And you could use our promo code CODERDIGITAL and get a $10 credit. We spin up rigs for anything now. If I need a Minecraft server, if we need a Mumble server, when we have an event like we have Self coming up, where the guys are going to be on location at Southeast Linux Fest, we bounce their video stream back to the studio off a DigitalOcean droplet. It's an amazing service for $5 a month. If you play around with Docker, you create things on your local machine, and you want to deploy it up to a public server to have somebody test it, try out DigitalOcean. Remember, Coder Digital gets you the $10 credit. And then really one of the great things about DigitalOcean is their amazing interface. Their interface is so intuitive, and their control panel can be replicated on a larger scale with their straightforward API. It's a really, really great implementation. Even Alan Jude loves it. And right now they're hiring too. They need Linux system administrators. They need content editors. They have really, really great tutorials, and they invest in these things. They need people to create them for them and also to edit them. Go over there and check out their hiring positions, the content editor, and their great tutorials. Use the promo code CODERDIGITAL, get a $10 credit, try out that $5 rig, 2 months for free, DigitalOcean.com. And a huge thank you to DigitalOcean for sponsoring the Coder Radio program. You guys have made what we do possible. DigitalOcean.com, Coder Digital, when you check out. So as we record this episode, lots of questions about the open sourcing of Swift. Swift 2 comes out, and up on stage, they said that we think this is going to be the next big language, and we want everyone to use it. And so, we are open sourcing Swift 2, and we are releasing an open source compiler for the Mac and for Linux. Linux, not Windows. Not Linux. Windows. Yes. Not Windows. Linux. You think it's because they want server-side Swift software? Do you think it's because it's in order to be hip today, you have to release a Linux app like Visual Code Studio or Visual Studio Code? What is it, Mr. Dominic? Why Linux, not Windows?
I would think it has something to do with the compiler and whatever LLVM stuff they're using under the hood.
Oh, that's kind of a boring kind of. I wanted like some big grand vision.
It's probably the truth, though, right?
Yeah, probably is the truth, isn't it?
Although, all right, well, let's go into the weeds a little bit, right? Apple is still the only group using web objects. Maybe they want to do a backend in Swift. That would really fix a weakness for them.
It's an interesting. I think it's an interesting era when you got Microsoft going all in on .NET. You got Rust out there that people love. You got Swift going open source. I don't know what to make of it. I'm gonna guess it's gonna be like an Apache 2 type license.
I think it's Apache BSD, something like that. Yeah.
So open source for iOS, OS 10, and Linux. They say it also is faster, new language features. They're serious about Swift.
It's telling that you mentioned Microsoft, though, because up until this, right, C#, it was looking like it was going to become kind of a, I know we're going to get hate in the chat room in a second, but kind of a lingua franca of development, right? They had open sourced it. They were open sourcing .NET. You had Xamarin shipping things that maybe they shouldn't have. You have all kinds of really, frankly, aggressive pushing in that direction, right?
Yeah, I think in order to contend at all, you have to go open source to be competitive. That's why they did it, right?
Yeah, and I think this is going to throw a little bit of a monkey wrench in that story. I would not be opposed to, if I was doing an OS 10 app, and so the question is, how much are they going to open source, Core Foundation, right, the frameworks? Seems like they're going to. Assuming they do, how hard is it going to be to get your OS 10 Swift app running on, let's say, Ubuntu, right, if you only use the open source components?
Well, and let me ask you this. You notice they said OS 10, iOS, and Linux. They didn't say Watch OS, but would you be surprised if native Watch apps are Swift only?
I made that prediction a couple weeks ago. I'm kind of want to walk that back.
Oh, you did you? Oh, okay. Maybe that's where I got the idea.
That's where you got the idea. I thought about it, and I've been thinking about it. It seems unnecessary. They don't need to force you, right? Even curmudgeons like me who've kind of been holding out, making it open source removes a lot of the risk in using it.
Ah, okay.
So, and it also, I'm excited to see, again, and it's very annoying that all this stuff is under NDA, but I don't know if they're going to loosen it this year. But when they start releasing the tapes for the developer sessions, I'm curious to see what they've done in Swift 2.0 or what they're going to do.
I think they're loosening up on it, but we'll see.
We'll see what we can and can't talk about. But bottom line, I think if this hurts anybody, it's going to be Microsoft the most.
Not Googs.
I don't think Googs cares. I mean, I'll make the prediction now, right? We're going to see some third-party tool company come out with, Swift on Android, right? Like a Xamarin for Swift, basically, instead of C#. But I don't think that's going to matter much. I feel like the people who are going hybrid are going HTML5. There is a small group of Xamarin developers, and everybody else is, for consumer-facing top-shelf apps, you're kind of going native still, right?
Mm. I can't wait for the next native game on the watch. The big hit. Flappy Bird for the watch. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. Well, the thing is, actually, the funny thing is, it's not much of a developers conference, is it?
It really wasn't. That was a little disappointing.
Yeah, it's really a consumer show. And then right now, in about an hour, I think they're going to do a state of the platform or something like that, which would be much more developer focused and give you a lot more details. One thing I thought was kind of nice, I don't know why I forgot to mention it, just jumping around a bit, the trackpad feature of the iPad keyboard. Every single device. Oh my God! Every device needs to rip that off. Everybody, every keyboard out there. I want every Android keyboard to be updated tomorrow in the Play Store with that feature. I gotta have it. I gotta have it on phones. I gotta have it on tablets. Did you watch it? Did you see what they could do with that thing?
I did watch it.
You put down 2 fingers and it turns your keyboard into a trackpad. And that makes text selection super awesome. And the chat room was with me on it, man. They want every freaking vendor out there to rip it off, and I can't wait for it. It turns your keyboard into a trackpad.
I just wasn't that into it.
And then I think you were drunk. Okay. Apple Music, Apple CarPlay, stuff like that. Anything else you want to cover from the WWDC?
No, I think we're good. Again, this is kind of the disappointing thing about WWDC over I/O. The good stuff is going to be under NDA. True that. The good stuff, yeah. Although ironically, consumers will have their hands on it way before the Google consumers. They got a good slam in there. They gave Lollipop a 12% market share, which is generous, by the way. They gave Lollipop a generous number because I looked at it last week and somebody was reporting at 9%. Let's go look at it right now. Yeah, I didn't think they hit 10. I was surprised to see 12.
Lollipop market share. Apple said 12%. And what did they say? 89% for iOS 8? Is that what they said?
Yeah.
Something redonkulous like that. Let's see. Lollipop market share. Google releases that information directly, right?
I think so, yeah.
Chatham, if you have a link, I would love to know because all I'm seeing is a Forbes article. Last time I looked, it was pretty low. But last time I looked, it was like May 5th. So it was about a month ago. Yeah. Well, Mr. Dominic, very good. Good. Thanks for joining me towards the end of the WWDC live stream, too. That was fun.
Yes.
So according to Forbes, it's 9.7%. But so Apple, either way, was giving them a fairly generous number. So good for them. And chat room, if you have a link to that, that'd be handy. So anyways, if you wanted to see all of our thoughts as they unveiled bit by bit for the keynote, check out patreon.com/today and look at the feed for our patrons. And Mr. Dominic, I'd also encourage people to just join us live.
Yes.
They could just join us live and get all the goodness there and hang out with Mr. Dominic and I. Chat in our chat room. And don't forget our subreddit, coderradio.reddit.com. We'll be back to our regular format next week. Oh, so there you go. We got developer.android.com says 12.4% from the Android. There you go. It's going fast. It's going fast. Hopefully those are 5.1 users. Mr. Dominic, is there anywhere you'd like to point people throughout the week?
Yes, go to buccaneertech.com and our blog, buccaneer.io.
And don't forget about that El Capitan promo for the consultation.
That's right.
That's right. And say something nice about me, for goodness sake. Now join us live.
Don't.
Yes. Monday, noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, jblive.tv, jblive.info for the audio. All right, everybody, thanks so much for this week's episode of Coder Radio. See you right back here next week.